Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mila, you're at my book nook, and today I have a video that is it's so late. I'm so late with this. I apologize. Today I have what I call my quarter 3 hopefuls. So instead of, well, I guess that's not right, but it's just the books that I hope to read in the third quarter. I used to not do monthly TBRs, and I don't know if I'm going to continue doing the monthly TBRs. I did do an August TBR video, but we'll see how it goes. It was actually really fun to film that, and I also enjoy watching those. So quarter 3 hopefuls, basically a list of 20 something books that I want to read over the course of third quarter, or over the course of, in general, 3 months, depending on what quarter it is. In this case, it's July, August, and September. So basically, I'll just chat about some of the books. Some of the books are repeats from other quarterly TBRs because some of them are more like yearly goals, which we'll get to in a second. Some of these I have read already. There's one that I've read. But some of these also ended up on my August TBR, so we'll chat about that a little bit. If you want to watch my August TBR video and then come back to this one, I will link it down below and maybe somewhere here, wherever, if I remember to do that. Anyways, let us get started. The first book I have is Year of the Mer by L.D. Lewis. This is the July book club pick. So if you don't know, I run a book club called the Museum Society Book Club. It's the chillest book club on earth. Basically, I give you a fiction, fantasy, usually new release, and a classic to read every month. But that's usually for the people that like to have more of a structured sort of monthly TBR going on. Whereas I'm an agent of chaos. It can all change with one video. So you never know. So Year of the Mer follows kind of like the granddaughter, I believe, or great-granddaughter of Ariel, like from The Little Mermaid. And so her dad's dead, her mother's dying, and she gets essentially, there's like a coup essentially against her, and she kind of has to, you'll have to see whether or not she makes a bargain with the sea witch, Ursula. Next we have Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. Wow, this has been on my TBR for a long time. This has been on my TBR for a while. This is also the July classic. And given that it's on my quarter 3 hopeful, I have not anything beyond that, I did not read it. Again, some of these are like the book club picks. It's very much read it whenever you want to. Like, this is just for those that like sort of a structured kind of thing going on. Sense and Sensibility basically follows two sisters. This is a Jane Austen novel, and I would highly recommend the movie with Emma Thompson and Kate Winslet and Alan Rickman. It's such a good movie. And I read Pride and Prejudice, which I really enjoyed and I really loved. And we watched the adaptation of Colin Firth, which was Chef's Kiss. And also I would highly recommend The Other Bennet Sister. Wow, that was Chef's Kiss as well. But Sense and Sensibility, we follow two sisters. We follow Eleanor Dashwood and Marianne Dashwood. And basically their father dies, and because of the whole, the house and all that stuff, inheritance goes to the first son, or to the son, basically they have to leave and they have to move because they essentially lost all the money that was basically sustaining them, and they lost the estate that they were living in that was their father's, and then basically he's a half-brother, if I'm not mistaken, their half-brother essentially kicks them out, which is diabolical. Like, I could never, I can't. So they moved to this, smaller sort of house and stuff. And there's also a third sister whose name I've forgotten, but it focuses on Eleanor and Marianne. And basically, Eleanor is the oldest, so she thinks very much with her head, whereas Marianne is kind of more of a dreamer and she thinks very much with her heart. So there's just like a lot of things, and it's such a fantastic story, and I really loved watching the movie. Obviously, again, I haven't read the book. With Pride and Prejudice, it was a little different. I read the book and then my mom and I watched the adaptation. Next, we have Rusalka by C.J. Cherryh, and this is the August book pick, August fantasy. However, because I am filming this after a slight change in the August books, I don't have it on this because, oh wait, I don't even have it on here because I've read it before. Anyways, sorry. But usually, so in August, at first I had just Rusalka as the fantasy pick. However, I realized how difficult it is to actually find. Could not find it in a library anywhere. Couldn't find it on Libby anywhere. Literally cannot find it online through legal means. Okay, could barely find it online through other means. I found a hardback copy at a second-hand bookstore, like new and used bookstore, that my boyfriend took me to one time, And I wasn't expecting to find it, but I found it and he got it for me. And he also got me the second book, also in hardcover. So that was like find of the century, right? Or rather, the decade, I guess. But I also wanted to give you guys another book just in case it would be proving difficult to find Rusalka, which I find that it was. And that is The River She Became by Emily Varga. The reason why it's not on here is because I read it. I read it as an art. So, and it's literally on my bed right now. So, anyways, Rusalka by C.J. Cherryh. This one follows, I believe, a boy who runs away and he meets someone whose daughter turned into Rusalka. And Rusalka are basically maidens that were drowned and they come back as like spirits to haunt the people, I guess, and try to, drown other people. Like that's their shtick, So, Rusalka. Next, we have 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea by Jules Verne. I'm just now realizing that there's very much a nautical theme here. You've got Year of the Mer, you've got Rusalka, you've got 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. There's a very clear nautical theme here. Not intentional, but 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea by Jules Verne is just a classic science fiction story. I believe he's like the father of science fiction, or whatever. I guess he shares that sort of parent of science fiction tale with one Mary Shelley, So yeah, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, basically we follow this one explorer, I believe, and there are these attacks that are coming on the ships all of a sudden. It's like this creature and they don't know what it is, and so he gets sent out to discover what this creature is, and turns out it is a ship called the Nautilus. It is a submarine of sorts, and it is captained by one Captain Nemo. And they sort of, I guess, explore the morality and ethics of it all. Who does this ship belong to? Which country does it belong to? Who does Captain Nemo belong to, right? Just sort of identity and all that stuff. I haven't read it. Next, we have The Republic of Memory by Mahmoud El-Sayed. This is a science fiction. It's set in the future. It's about this ship that basically has like it has basically cities, like human cities, basically the entirety of, I think, the human population. Basically, they are going to this planet that is essentially a new Earth. I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I might be confusing this with something else. Excuse me. I have it right here, actually. The Safina is a city ship halfway through its 400-year voyage from the ruins of Earth to a new colony world. So I was right. Its crew maintains the ship generation after generation while protecting their ancestors in cryostasis so that one day they will be able to enjoy a fresh start under clear blue skies. But when blackouts begin, unrest follows. The ship can only continue running smoothly with the cooperation of the crew, and the crew has had enough. As coordinated acts of resistance coincide with a much more complex conspiracy, a chain of events is set in motion that will change the life on the Safina forever. I think this cover is really cool. I think it has a lot of really cool elements, and I like how it's set. Like, there's just layers. I also like how there's a lot of references to like other languages and stuff like that, and there's also a lot of references to like religion. I find that really interesting because I don't think that even in space exploration that we would lose our innate sense of like religion and believing in a higher power. I think that's just a really interesting exploration that I haven't really seen touched upon before. Like, definitely in like, I guess, the Christian sense, but not in the Islamic sense. Like, how would that even work? Which direction would you pray if you're in space? Because Muslims have to pray in the direction of the Mecca, but if you're in space, would you like pray towards the direction of the Earth? I guess that would make sense, right? But like, what if you don't really know which? You kind of have to rough it out then, right? If you're really far away. Sorry, that's a tangent that I didn't expect to go on, but anyways, the classic I have is something a little different, and I actually have right here. It is Russian Magic Tales from Pushkin to Platonov. This is basically a collection of, you guessed it, Russian Magic Tales, and the reason why I wanted to get to this was because it was to light a fire under my own behind to get through this. I'm writing middle grade fantasy that is very much steeped in Russian fairy tales and folklore as well as Slavic mythology, but I couldn't find anything definitive on Slavic mythology, so we're focusing on Russian magic tales. And I think that it might be interesting for some who have not even encountered any Russian magic tales, like me, who has grown up with these stories. So yeah, I figured it'd be interesting for people to go a little bit out of their usual comfort zone, and yeah, just to see how that kind of works. Next, we have our nonfiction picks. So first up, we have the Amazons, the lives and legends of warrior women across the ancient world by Adrienne Mayer. And this is basically an exploration of who the Amazons actually were. I think it's the most definitive exploration of who the Amazons were. Next, we have Seven Wonders of the Ancient World by Bettany Hughes. This is just like talking about the seven wonders of the ancient world. So we have the pyramids of Giza, Hanging Gardens of Babylon, the Colosseum at Halicarnassus, Artemis, Temple of Artemis, Temple of Zeus, Colossus of Rhodes, and I am missing one. I said Babylon. I am missing one. This is not what I expected. Why am I missing one? Artemis. Oh, Lighthouse of Alexandria. Lighthouse of Alexandria. How am I missing the one that like my... Anyways, Seven Wonders of the Ancient World by Bettany Hughes just kind of breaks down each wonder. And then we have The Science of Middle Earth. This is the bonus fiction book. A New Understanding of Tolkien and His World. This kind of just delves into, like, again, the science of Middle Earth, which I figured would be interesting for some who are into Tolkien and stuff. I want to dive a little deeper into it in the non-fiction sense. Next, we have two books that have continuously shown up because it is a yearly goal. I don't know if I'm going to get to it, but whatever. I truly don't know. First up, we have the first book of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, The Fellowship of the Ring, by Tolkien in Russian. So, which I have right here. Oh, geez. Oh, no. So, it's a copy that I got for myself, and I was 93 pages in, I think. I think they barely left the Shire. Yeah, I don't think they left the Shire, to be honest. What chapter was it? Where are the chapters? Chapter 2! I think they barely left the Shire. Not even. But yeah, I just really like these editions of like classic books, I guess. I just find they're so satisfying to look at. This is like the Russian version of like the Penguin Classics editions, because they're all like this. They all have this like picture, and then they have like the author's name, and then they usually have like the title and something here, and then it just says like exclusive classic or whatever. But yeah, so there's that. And then the second book I have that has been a repeat is Le Comte de Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas, or The Count of Monte Cristo. And the reason I have this as well is because I want to read it in French. I speak French fluently, and I want to, I guess, use that to the best of my abilities. And I really loved the book in English. Like, I read it in translation, obviously, but I really loved the story, and I really want to try to read it in the original French. I do have a copy. I hate the pocketbook versions, but it's like one of those smaller versions, and it's like the whole story in one edition. Usually they're in two separate volumes, which is like tome 1 and tome 2, but in my case they're in one volume, which I don't mind, but I hate the cover, and I hate that it's like smaller than all my other books. It just looks so stupid. Anyways, the next book I have is a Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers. This is one of the r/fantasy bingo TBR books that I chose. This is the one that's like non-binary character, trans non-binary character. And I believe the monk, in this case, is the non-binary character. Next, we have The Djinn-Bot of Shantyport by Simon Basu. This is another R-fantasy book. And this one is based on the title or the cover, something or other. And the cover is really cool. The title is interesting, so I'm excited to see what is going on. Also, it has a quote from Tasha Suri that says, "Sparkles with the wondrous and wild possibilities of Aladdin in space." That's all I need. There's a monkey. There's a monkey on the cover. Is this actually Aladdin in space? Who knows? I love it. Also gives Star Wars. Next, we have The Spirit Cuts Through Water by Simon Jimenez. This is partly... I don't think this is an R-fantasy book. I don't think so. Hold that thought. Let me check real quick. Let me double check, because I don't remember. I don't think it is. No, it is. That's a lie. This is an R-fantasy book club / read-along pick. So one of the prompts was you pick an r/fantasy book club or read-along book, and then you read it. There you go. Spirit Cuts Through Water. Also, I got my boyfriend, who is Filipino, and this book is very much steeped in, I think, Filipino mythology and storytelling, and the author is also Filipino, and I got him a paperback, and I might have to steal that paperback because the hardback is so big. But I also want to read it. Because it's Filipino, and I want to sort of learn more about that culture. Obviously, I don't know much about it. But next we have The Goblin Emperor by Catherine Addison. This is the prompt of main character is not human. We've got a goblin main character. This is like one of those classic fantasy books that are, I think, meant for like younger kids, like for teens, I guess, or kids, I guess. And I just never, it just flew over my head. The cover is intriguing for sure. But yeah, next we have Far Norzad and the Ring of Fate. This is the middle grade thing, and it's also on the August TBR as my middle grade pick. Yeah, none of the other ones are actually, yeah, none of the other ones are they? I don't know. Not on TBR. Next we have Sybil's Secret by Juliette Marillier. I just want to get more into Juliette Marillier, and this seems so interesting. I think it's set in Istanbul. So Sybil's Secret is one that is published, what was it? Sybil's Secret is one where it is a duology part 2. A Silver Belly Promise, The Last Legacy, the first book in the Last Legacy series by James Logan, is the one where it's like a murder mystery in hard mode, but the main character is not like a detective. Next, we have A Memory Called Empire by Arkady Martine, and this one is duology part 1, and it's also one of the August TBR picks. Next, we have The Chestnut Heir. It's just I want to know what hype's about. Next, we have The Whale Rider. This is one I want to read with my sister, and I also want to get more into like indigenous writing and stuff, and this is from I believe a Maori author. Next we have Inanna, and that's one I've actually read, so there's that. Next we have Glorious Exploits by Freddie Lennon. I think this isn't a very long book, which is why I initially picked it. I also have it. So A Song of Legends Lost is the next one, and that is the Author of Color prompt. Next we have Ancillary Justice by Ann Leckie. This is just one that I've been really interested in reading because I want to get into Ann Leckie, and I believe I've heard pretty solid things. Next, we have God Killer by Hannah Canner. This is another Reddit book. Feast your eyes on this, which has like recipes, apparently, according to the subreddit. Next, we have There's No Anti-Memetics Division. This is one where it's like the title as well. No idea what this is about. I have no idea. I don't know. I genuinely do not know. The amount of time, every time, I guess it kind of does deal with memory. Every time I read the synopsis, it just almost goes in one ear out the other, although I'm reading it, if you know what I mean. Next, we have The Will of the Many. I need to reread and finally finish the second book. Next, we have And Now Back to You. I think I'm going to put this on the Q4 TBR as well, but I can read this in like a day. Next, we have Talking Classics by Mary Beard, The Shock of the Old. This is a new nonfiction by Dame Mary Beard, who is a very prominent classicist, and I like her humor. So her writing style is very easy to digest. Next, we have Descendant of the Crane by Joan He. This is her debut novel, and I can't believe I still haven't gotten around to it, and I need to read it so bad. Next, we have Night Watch by Terry Pratchett. I have a copy of this. I want to get into Terry Pratchett. Something has not clicked, but I'm hoping that eventually does. Next, we have Ruska by Edward Rutherford. This is basically kind of like a story of like Russia from like kind of like the beginning, like before anyone kind of created solid like towns and villages and a system and stuff. And we follow, I believe, like 2 or 3 families and several generations. So excited to get through that. And last but not least, I have A Natural History of Dragons by Murray Brennan. I have read this before, and I'm really excited to reread it and finally read the rest of the series. I really enjoyed it. It has this very humorous sort of Victorian tone to it, and I've been enjoying a lot of those books, like those style of books. Again, Pride and Prejudice, Jane Austen, obviously those aren't Victorian necessarily, but just that kind of style, sort of the old kind of thing. I've read back-to-back some Tessa Dares, which is roughly, I'd say, this the same time period, and it's just about women who are going out of the bubble that they are trapped in. So I find that very inspiring. Anyways, that is it for this video. If you liked it, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what books are on your Q3 TBR. I know this is late, my bad, but better late than never. So yeah, there's that. Follow me on all my socials. I'm more active on Instagram as well as Substack, so you might want to follow me there. I'm more active on there, and as usual, I hope you enjoy it, and as always, happy reading.